So hi everybody, just to welcome everybody to today's webinar, an introduction to the RIBA Plan of Work 2020. A little bit of housekeeping first. The webinar will last around about 45 minutes. Everyone on the call today has got their microphones muted, but if you have any observations, any questions, please drop them in the comment box and we'll try and follow up as many of those as possible after the session. My name's Stephen Hamil. We'll do introductions in a second, Stephen from MBS. But what we'll cover today is the main presentation, an introduction to the RIBA Plan of Work with Dale Sinclair from AECOM. We'll also say a little bit about this webinar series. So this is the first of a number of webinars that are around the topics, around the strategies in the RIBA Plan of Work 2020. We'll have a question and answer with Dale towards the end. We've got 7 or 8 questions which have came in, and then we'll just finish with a little bit about support options from MBS around these sort of topics. So my name's Stephen Hamil. I'm Innovation Director at MBS, and also on the webinar today, the main presenter, Dale Sinclair, who's Director of Technical Practice at AECOM. Dale's going to give an introduction to the RIBA Plan of Work 2020. He has been the editor of the RIBA Plan of Work since the main relaunch in 2013. And with respect to the 2020 version, Dale is the lead author of the Overview Guidance publication. So I think when people on the call know about the RIBA Plan of Work, it's a free download from architecture.com. And that's the sort of famous layout of the plan with the different stages and the taskbars. But accompanying the Plan of Work is a free download, about 150 pages worth of really sort of well laid out guidance notes as well. The RIBA Plan of Work 2020 overview, of which Dale's the lead author. So Dale's going to present looking at industry feedback that came in after the 2013 plan and the subsequent updates to the 2020 plan. He's going to present on the stages within the plan, the key tasks to deliver against the project strategies. So that's enough from me. I'm now going to pass over to Dale.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to take you through the recent development of the RIBA Plan of Work that we've been working on over the last 18 months or so. And to start with, I just wanted to recap the RIBA Plan of Work in 2013. It was obviously one of the major overhauls of the RIBA Plan of Work in its, at that time, 50-year history. And it was conceived as a digital plan of work, and we did have a specific website that allowed you to customize the plan of work. But what we did find was that that customized plan of work wasn't being widely used. However, and what was great to see was that the single A3 piece of paper has been downloaded many thousands of times, and really over the last 7 years has taken hold within the construction industry, and now is used by most clients, obviously replacing the last plan of work with the letters for the stages. And one of the things that we did when we launched the last plan of work was we included an overview document. And one of the key pieces of feedback that we've really had over the last 6 or 7 years is that this feedback could have been more comprehensive. And at the time, we did produce 2 supporting publications. One was a guide, and the other one was about assembling a collaborative project team that really tumbled out of one of the chapters of the guide. And what we've done this time is, because both of those guides were paid for, obviously the sales have been less than the free to download information. So what we've done this time is we've really taken the equivalent of the RIBA guide and incorporated that into the overview document, so that that's now much more comprehensive. And as a reminder, this was the Plan of Work 2013, which really revolved around the 8 stages and a number of taskbars, which, as I say, were actually editable to create a customized plan. The key difference from the last plan of work is the plan of work in 2013 was procurement agnostic. So obviously it was designed to work with any form of procurement. And in terms of how that has moved forward into 2020, you can see that we still have the same 8 stages. We have looked at changing some of the names, and I'll explain why as we go through the presentation. And we have added some additional guidance notes on the left-hand side, and you'll see some guidance boxes sitting across a number of the stages. And all of these have really been aimed at resolving some of the inconsistencies in the way that the plan of work has been used on across the industry. And as I say, we have the supporting overview document, which is much more comprehensive. And in this document, we've also included a section that looks at the common misuses, let's say, of the RIBA Plan of Work and how it's been interpreted and used over the last 7 years. And of course, a lot of the tweaks that we've made to the Plan of Work itself are trying to address those areas where the Plan of Work is being used inconsistently. And I'll pick up some of these points as I go through the presentation. And so here we see the comparison of the 2013 and 2020 plan of work. So we have, as I've already noted, we have the same 8 stages, and we have a number of taskbars. The main difference being that we've added some additional taskbars and we've taken some away. We've included a taskbar on the core statutory processes because we wanted to be clear about what tasks needed to be done at each stage of the RIBA plan of work in relation to those processes. We've also added a very simple diagram about how procurement plays into the plan of work, noting that the plan of work is agnostic. And we've also added some more comprehensive information exchanges, so it's clear what happens at each stage. And just let me walk you through those taskbars and what they do. Now, the first bar is at the top of the plan of work. You'll see that there's a piece of text that runs from stage 1 to stage 6. So the first trend that we've seen is design teams being commissioned from stage 0 to stage 7. That is not really how the plan of work is intended to be used. For most projects, we see the project team being commissioned from stage 1 to stage 6, and probably the design team from stage 2 to stage 6. And again, I'll come back to that point in a second. And the first thing that we've tried to do is to introduce a stage outcome bar, and really trying to make it really succinctly clear what the goal is of each RIBA stage. And I think a crucial point that people sometimes miss is that the outcomes of one stage are really important in terms of framing the beginning of the next stage. So if I, for example, as an architect, receive a poor brief at stage 1, then arguably that will impact on the quality of the concept design. If I do not properly integrate the strategic engineering into the concept design, then arguably it increases the complexity and the iterations of stage 3, and so on and so forth. So we're trying to highlight that the information exchanges at the end of a stage are absolutely crucial in the success of the next stage. The next thing we've done is updated the core tasks which are done at each stage. Now, this is not a comprehensive list of the tasks, nor does it say who does the tasks. These are just the absolutely crucial things that underpin the success of the plan of work and how you navigate from one stage to the next, and really are the tasks that are absolutely crucial to the success of a project. As I've already mentioned, the core statutory processes bar has been asked to really bring some clarity to what sort of tasks should be done at each stage in relation to planning and also in relation to the building regulations. And then, of course, we have a procurement bar that looks at when you might issue your employer's requirements documents, and broadly when the contractor's proposals or tender information or the appointment of the contractor might occur in relation to each common procurement route. And finally, is the information that we would expect to be exchanged at the end of each stage. And as I say, that information is not just a conclusion of that stage, but is fundamental to the success of the following stage. So a couple of points again that we iterated at in 2013 around what the plan of work was. So I'd just like to quickly run through these. The plan of work is just a guidance document. It's really a framework. It is not intended to be a contractual document, and nor can it be, because it doesn't say who does what when, and it does not really include a proper schedule of services. However, what it does do is it sets out the activities for the project team at each stage, which allows someone that is putting together a project team to consider who they need at each project stage. And as I've already mentioned, it's procurement agnostic, and it is enabled to the UK Level 2 BIM framework. And really aligned to what I've just said in terms of the above points, it does need to be used alongside guidance. It's not really easy to use it on its own because of the complexity of some of the points, and the bold kind of terms which we have put into the plan of work, again, are all terms where we provide additional information on what is that term, what's it intending to say and to do. And of course, the crucial thing in terms of the increasing complexity of the digital world that we live in is that the plan of work is enabled into the future. We do believe that there will be some major changes in the way that we design and make buildings in this decade. But at the same time, we do believe that the plan of work will be resilient into the future to deal with these new business models as they begin to emerge. And now what I'm going to do is just quickly go through each stage, talk about the outcome that is expected at the end of each stage, and then walk through the tasks for each stage. The crucial thing that stage 0 is trying to achieve is that a building project is the best means of achieving the client requirements. So for example, if I was looking at different ways of having more desk space in my office, I might do an extension to my office. I might do a space planning exercise. I might do a refurbishment. I might move to a new building. So there's different ways of achieving the client requirements. And of course, the business case for each one of these options will be different. So really what stage 0 is teasing out what is the client trying to do and what are the options for doing that. If the option is not a building project, then obviously the project in terms of a building project would cease at the end of stage 0. But if a building project is the best way forward, then obviously we would roll into stage 1 where a more comprehensive brief would take place. And of course, what we're really saying is that at stage 0, things like the project budget and the project risks are absolutely crucial in framing at a strategic level whether a project should go ahead. A project with incredibly high number of complex risks may obviously not be viable once those risks are assessed. And of course, it is essential to try and gain feedback from previous projects to try and inform the client's decisions. And in some instances, it might also be essential to look at how the client requirements relate to a number of sites, and it may be necessary to do some site appraisals. So really, stage 0 is really determining that a building project is the way forward for what the client is trying to achieve. And as I say, if we tumble from stage 0 into stage 1, we've now determined that there's a specific site, and now we're trying to look at developing the project brief, which obviously includes a number of elements like the outcomes the client's trying to achieve, the sustainability outcomes, the quality aspirations, and of course the spatial requirements that the client would like to the building, for the building, because of course that is all related to the project budget. Now, a common misconception is the role that feasibility studies play in stage 1. These are really only about testing the brief against a given site. As we all know, some sites can be incredibly difficult. They might be sloping, they might have difficult access issues or difficult shapes. So really what the feasibility study is just doing is a spatial overview of ways that the brief can fit on a site. It's not intended as a design exercise. And the second it does begin to become a design exercise, is straying into stage 2 territory. And feasibility studies might include a number of ways that the brief fits in the site, but the second those ways begin to be analysed, that really becomes a design process. So it's really a quick way of determining that the brief is workable on the site that has been selected at stage 0. And of course, at stage 1, we would want to source site information and any information really crucial to kickstarting the design process. At stage 2, we would want to have the overall project program in place, and we would want to have a project execution plan that really sets out how we're going to deliver the project in place. So that's really what stage 1 is. It's really about strategically framing the project before the design process begins in earnest at stage 2. And of course, part of what we've been doing with the new plan of work is continuing to bring clarity to who is in the project team and who needs to be appointed. And really, we see the project team as comprising of 3 teams: the design team, the client team, and of course, the construction team. And clarity is required there because many client teams now we see are becoming increasingly complex, and they have a large number of advisors. So what needs to be clear to the design team, if someone's being appointed as lead designer, is who is in the design team and who does the lead designer have responsibility for, whether the client is appointing those designers or specialist consultants directly or not. And in the guidance notes, we have a section looking at this whole notion of how the project team is constructed at stage 1, and of course how procurement will impact on the relationship between the design team, the construction team, and the specialist subcontractors. And the other crucial part of the plan of work, and this is really just a reminder from the 2013 text, is that there are 3 programs that are really crucial to the plan of work. The first one is a project program that really sets out the timescale for each stage of the project, for stage 1, 2, 3, through to stage 6 and 7. The construction program is really the contractual document provided by the contractor for the timescale that it will take to build the building. Now, a construction program is an incredibly complex document, but it is based on logic driven by specific quantities. So for example, if I know I have an elevation of 10,000 square meters and I know it takes a squad of elevation contractors to build that 1,000 square meters a day, then obviously I can begin to piece together the durations to build the building, looking at the critical path and all the aspects that are unique to the construction program. And that leads us to the final program, which is really the design program. And from an RIBA perspective, the design program is a crucial document, and we would expect a design program to be produced for each one of the design stages, stages 2, 3, and 4. A design program is not the same as a construction program because design, especially in the earlier stages, is incredibly difficult to program, mainly because we require so many inputs from stakeholders that are very difficult to predict. So producing a granular design program can be counterintuitive because it can very quickly get out of shape. So really what we're trying to bring clarity on is that each one of these programs is crucial to the success of any project using the RIBA Plan of Work, but each one of these programs has a different task to do in terms of ensuring that success. Now, another crucial piece of kind of strategic thinking that is crucial to the RIBA Plan of Work is the whole notion of how we move through the 3 design stages, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. In some senses, it could be argued that those stages could be a single stage, and certainly in the Plan of Work, we have mapped out how some of the other plans of work across the globe work in that regard. But it is common where a plan of work is used in the construction industry elsewhere across the globe to have a number of design stages so that the design can be incrementally signed off as it progresses. But simplistically, what we're trying to do is to go from those very early sketches to the optimum set of construction information at the end of stage 4. That is really what we're doing. And what I'm now going to do is to explain the let's say, how the end of each stage works. And in many instances, there is not a prescriptive way that for defining how the end of stage 2 works. So let me come on to this. But the end of stage 3 is absolutely crucial, because obviously we would on the whole be going for our planning application then, and of course the end of stage 3 kicks off a whole ton of additional work in terms of each specialist subcontractor or design team member producing specific information for each building system. So I'm just going to walk you through some of the points related to how we've set the boundaries between those 3 crucial stages. And obviously, moving on from the briefing stage, stage 2 is really about defining a rock solid architectural concept that has been approved to the client and aligned to the project brief. Now, crucial to any architectural concept is a number of accompanying tasks. A concept cannot sit in isolation. It needs some strategic engineering. And when we say strategic engineering, what we're really thinking about is more rules of thumb kind of engineering, and making sure that elements like the grid or the plant rooms that are required are incorporated into that architectural concept. And of course, any architectural concept also needs to be aligned to the client's cost plan. Otherwise, we're going to end up with iterations as we go into stage 3. And of course, there will be a number of standalone project strategies on a number of subjects from fire safety to sustainability that need to be signed off as part of that process. And it's absolutely crucial that we understand the level of specification of the building, because in turn, that impacts on the cost plan. And it's also important that we agree any derogations from the brief, because as the design progresses, it is possible that the brief may need to be honed and changed to reflect discussions with the client team as the design progresses. And of course, crucial to stage 2 are the design reviews with the client and other project stakeholders, such as the planners and any other local communities or any other advisors who are crucial to the success of a project. And of course, we need to have a design program that helps to frame how all those tasks work during stage 2. So those are the crucial tasks of stage 2. And I think one of the points about the stage 2 and stage 3 boundary is there is not necessarily a right or wrong approach about how many tasks need to be done. And let me give you a simple example. So for the core of an office building, stage 2 may or may not have detailed calculations for the staircases or for the toilet numbers, or maybe it does. This is all something that needs to be agreed between the design team and the client team in terms of how much information is needed to produce a robust concept design. And of course, a robust concept design may vary depending on the complexity of the project or the complexity of the site and many of other things. But the crucial thing at stage 3 is the alignment of all of these key tasks, because the concept, the engineering, the strategies, the specification, and the cost plan must all be aligned if a scheme is to flow successfully into stage 3. Moving to stage 3. Stage 3 is called spatial coordination. And what we mean by spatially coordinated is that by the end of stage 3, there should be a single model produced by the design team that is coordinated and is really not prone to change as it moves into stage 4. So the whole idea is to have a robust model by the end of stage 3 that allows each design team member or specialist subcontractor to really develop their content for the technical design at stage 4, safe that the building itself is not going to be changed as they go along. But of course, at stage 3, we will need to do further design studies. So we might do extra studies of the elevations. We might do studies for the lobby of an office building. And the engineering team now begin to ramp up their more detailed exercises and calculations. And we will, of course, have to do more detailed cost exercises as we start to do this more detailed information. So really, stage 3 is not a client space. It's really where we're taking that concept design signed off the client, where new tools such as virtual reality may have been used to help sign off the design, and we're really validating that that design works as we do more design studies, more cost studies, and more engineering. We develop the project strategies in more detail, and of course we update the outline specification. And stage 3 is really when change control procedures need to kick in. So if we change the concept design for whatever reason during stage 3, this has to be run through change control procedures. It cannot be deemed to be design development. And of course, like the other design stages, we need to produce a design program. So that's really the essence of stage 3, is at the end of that stage, we have a fully coordinated building that is really ready to go into the technical design challenge, and of course on the whole for an planning application to be made. And just picking up on that point, in the 2013 plan of work, it was mentioned that a planning application may be submitted at stage 2. The subtle shift that we've made with the 2020 plan of work is we're really saying that stage 2 needs to be signed off, and that to submit a planning application, some clients may wish to do that earlier than at the end of stage 3. Some clients may do that with some engineering works. Some may do that with all the engineering being undertaken. There is no right or wrong approach. The RIBA does recommend that stage 3 is completed before a planning application is prepared and submitted, but we do acknowledge that it is common practice for, let's say, the information to be pulled out of the stage 3 design process midway or towards the end of stage 3 in order to prepare a planning application. We do counsel that clients should be cautious with this approach, and certainly clients should be experienced in doing this kind of approach if they are going to work this way, because any planning application that's prepared before the end of stage 3 risks needing changes as it progresses through the planning process, as stage 3 is completed to move into stage 4. Now, the technical design at stage 4 is really simple. It's all the information required to manufacture and construct the project and the completion of this information. Now, just recapping on a key misreading of the last plan of work is the crucial relationship between stage 4 and stage 5. Now, it is common for stage 4 and stage 5 to run concurrently. So, for example, depending on the procurement route, the contractor might be on board halfway through stage 4 and work may have commenced on site. And of course, the procurement route that has the maximum overlap between design and construction, management contracting, that may be quite early on in the technical design that we're actually commencing with stage 5. But the crucial thing is that stage 4 is the production of all of the information, regardless of when stage 5 commences. And as I say, it is highly likely that there will be an overlap. Now, the reason for this is that if you think about each procurement route and how the work of the design team and the specialist subcontractors relates, the design program for stage 4 will be sliced and diced differently depending on how that procurement route works. So, for example, if we have an integrated team on a project, we may have the specialist contractor information being produced at the same time as the design team's information, whereas on a traditional contract, we need to produce the design team information before issuing the tender documents, and it's unlikely that any contractor design portion will be undertaken until a contractor is appointed. But the crucial thing is stage 4 is a production of all of that information, regardless of any contractual relationships and who is contractually responsible for producing that information. And another element that we've added to stage 4 is trying to bring some clarity that stage 4 is really about the building systems and the information for each one of these systems. So for example, the flooring systems, the partition systems, the mechanical systems, or the structural systems. And of course, many contractors already break down the information produced by the design team into a number of packages for pricing anyway, so the building system process is familiar to most contractors anyway. And the other crucial thing is who produces that information. So we have in the guidance brought some clarity to the whole prescriptive and descriptive way of working, but I'll come back to that in a second. And of course, we still need to produce a design program. But fundamentally, stage 4 is really about, as I say, the optimum set of information required to manufacture and construct the project. And of course, one of the challenges looking to the future is that construction is changing. Modern methods of construction are changing the way that we make the buildings around us. And of course, that is going to increase the complexity of what we deliver as a design team at stage 4, and where specialist contractors and the contractors can add value to the process. So one of the things we're conscious of is ensuring that stage 4 remains relevant as more and more modern methods of construction are brought to bear, which is why we have actually termed stage 5 manufacture and construct to recognize the increasing role that manufacturing will play in the future making of a building. And the other crucial topic, as I've already mentioned, is how we navigate from the descriptive to prescriptive methodology running through a building. And of course, this descriptive to prescriptive journey will vary from project to project and client to client. And what is clear, however, is that by the end of stage 4, everything must be prescriptive. Now, part of the descriptive to prescriptive journey is the design team may hand the design baton to a specialist subcontractor and will need to issue descriptive information in order for the specialist subcontractor to produce prescriptive information. So that really needs to be clear at the outset of a project. So it's absolutely clear for each building system what the design team is designing prescriptively, i.e. for construction, and what they're designing descriptively, which is where a specialist subcontractor would have design responsibility. And we've tried to bring more guidance on both of those topics in the guidance document. And then what that means then is stage 5 is really purely about the logistics and the process of constructing, manufacturing and commissioning the building. So the logistics, the manufacturing of the building systems, the construction of the building, and then of course all of the things that go along with that, which is the monitoring of progress by the client team, the inspection of the construction quality, and the resolution of site queries. And of course, as we get towards completion, the commissioning of the building and the preparation of a building manual. And of course, who does those tasks will vary depending on the procurement route and how the the client has set up the project team. And then moving to stage 6. Stage 6 is really just that 1 year period running up to the end of defects period, in which the building is handed over in line with the plan for use strategy. We would be undertaking the initial review of the project performance. So this is how successful has the project team been and what might they have done better. We of course need to do some seasonal commissioning as part of the soft landing strategy. And we may also need to rectify any defects which still exist in the snagging list. And of course, there are some aftercare tasks that we will need to do, and we are recommending that a light touch post-occupancy evaluation is undertaken before the project team close out the project and everyone moves on to a new project. And then of course, stage 7 is simply the period of time when the building is used. So strictly speaking, it's from building handover right through to when the building might be refurbished or demolished and put into a new life. And of course, the key things happening then are all the facility management and asset management. There will be regular post-occupancy evaluations, so the client can ensure that the building is performing as intended, and the client may continue to look at the project outcomes and if these are being achieved. And of course, the whole role of stage 7 is trying to get feedback that can be fed back into the stage 0 of the next project. Certainly for clients that are doing repeat projects, this feedback loop becomes essential for how buildings can be more efficiently operated. So that is really the nub of the changes to the RIBA Plan of Work. And Stephen, do you want to now come to some of the questions that people have been asking? Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Dale. Let's just go through a few questions that we've had submitted now, please. So you did pick up on this on the webinar itself, but I'm just going to ask the question again, if you don't mind. A lot of design will take place on a typical project during the construction phase. So subcontractor design, even revisions going back and forward. Can you say a little bit more about stages 4 and 5 and the overlap there, please?
Yes, I mean, we've been extremely clear in the plan of work itself and also in the guidance document that it doesn't really matter when construction starts, i.e. stage 5 works. Stage 4 is production of any information required to manufacture and construct a building. So that's regardless of the procurement route, regardless of when starting site starts. So really stage 5 is purely everything to do with manufacturing and construction, and stage 4, the production of the information to enable that to happen.
Now, questions came in here, and hopefully you can give us an idea about this, because you must talk to people around the world that work for different companies. Do you have any sort of feedback as to how much the RIBA Plan of Work is actually being used in other countries or projects around the world?
Yes, I mean, certainly there a lot of the Commonwealth countries do use it. We see a lot of Middle East clients using the RIBA Plan of Work. So it is a fairly commonly used document. But what I would say, and we do have this in the overview document, is that all of the plans of work that exist internationally are not really that different to the RIBA Plan of Work. I think some of them may not have the in-use stages or greater clarity around the briefing stages, but they certainly have a process that runs through the design and construction phases of a project.
If we just focus on the UK, would you say that most of the UK architects are now using the 8 stages that were introduced in 2013, or are you still hearing about stage C and stage D and stage E?
Well, certainly all the clients that we're working with use the new RIBA Plan of Work. I haven't seen reference to the old kind of letter-based Plan of Work for many years. So I think most people are using the new Plan of Work. But of course, it is not a mandated document. It's not a legal requirement to use the Plan of Work. So I'm sure somewhere there will be someone that may be using the last Plan of Work, but certainly not something I've seen for a while.
And you mentioned that the guides are free download. I'll maybe show that at the end where people can download it from. But are there going to be any accompanying RIBA publications, like such as the update of the job book, schedule of services, etc. as well?
I'm not sure what's planned for those, but there has been updates to those recently, and let's say we haven't really changed the intent of any of the stages. We're just really honing the plan of work. So a lot of the previous documentation should still be fairly relevant and valid.
And we've got the taskbar about information exchanges. I know the UK has been a bit of a leader when it comes to the sort of standardizing BIM processes like information management through the project. How does the plan of work information exchange process align to the sort of the PAS 1192 or the ISO 19650 series of standards?
Well, we spent a lot of time in 2013 working with the kind of UK BIM task group and aligning the stages to the PAS documentation. So I think all of the theory behind certainly the 1192 and 19650 are all embedded and built into the plan of work. It is possible that we might refresh some of the overview to look at some of the 19650 terms in the next couple of months, but it's all fully aligned to work with 19650 suite of documents.
And just staying on information exchanges for a minute, we've got a question here about the Building Safer Future, the Hackett report, which talks about key information exchanges at key gateways, I think, before planning, before building, before handover. Do you think the plan of work nicely aligns to the recommendations in the Hackett report?
Yeah, so underneath the core task bar on the screen, you can see a number of the project strategies that previously were embedded into the plan of work. What we've done is, within the overview document, we've done a more comprehensive section on each one of these, including health and safety, fire safety, inclusive design. So there is now more information about what should be done at each stage of the project in relation to these key project strategies.
Yeah. And it may be worth saying that we do have subsequent webinars in this series that look at some of those project strategies as well. We'll mention at the end. You talked about the prescriptive and descriptive spec and understanding that in terms of informing subcontractor design. But would you say that all prescriptive specs potentially need a descriptive spec in terms of the build-up so that you can actually test, inspect the performance, the outcomes at the end against that performance that's required?
I think there's been a lot of confusion around how prescriptive and descriptive work with different forms of procurement. So what I would say, Stephen, is let me give you a couple of examples. I could have a traditional project where the client actually wants to have a number of elements be designed by the contractor rather than the design team. So I have to make those descriptive in what I issue as a design team. And of course, then when the contractor is appointed, the contractor design portion is used for the contractor to do that design work. So I've taken a traditional contract and I've, say, put in a number of elements of design to be undertaken by the contractor. Now, conversely, on a design and build project, the client may wish to use design and build for a number of reasons, but he may wish to control the quality into a finite level of detail for anything that's visible, from the brickwork in the building to balustrading detail. And he then wishes everything to be as prescriptive as possible, perhaps making the partitions, for example, descriptive, because he's fine for the contractor to be crucial to the selection of anything that's not visible in the project. So what I've just done in those two instances is I've made a traditional project feel like it has a lot of contractor design, and a design and build contract that has minimal contractor design. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is the whole prescriptive descriptive notion needs to be examined outside of the procurement route, because it's not necessarily a procurement discussion. It's about who is best placed to produce the final design information for a specific aspect of the building. And that decision may be driven by design quality, it may be driven by cost, it may be driven by supply chain management. So there's a number of more complex issues that are influencing the whole value proposition around who is best placed to specify each one of the building systems prescriptively or descriptively.
And if consider it's a building project, depending on the specific building project, it could be like a huge amount of demolition, or there could be some minor stripping out of partitions and M&E systems, or what have you. The demolition aspect of a project, is that a project in its own right, or is that part of the overall project plan?
Yes, I mean, I suppose there's two ways that you can look at demolition. I mean, a demolition could be the end of stage 7, obviously long after a building's been completed, and that could be a standalone project in its own right. So you could run through the demolition of a building through stage 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Or another way to look on it is if it becomes at the start of the next project, so the part of the stage 0 and 1 of a new project includes demolition of that building. When we get through to stage 5, then obviously it would be part of that holistic project. So yes, either way, it could be a standalone project or it could be integrated into the stage 0 to 7 of a project.
Yeah, and I guess this sort of cyclical nature of the plan of work comes in a bit there, where you can maybe plan for recyclability and demolition at the design stage, knowing that that could happen 30, 40, 80 years down the line, sort of thing.
No, exactly. And if you look at the sustainability guidance, certainly in terms of advocating the shift towards net zero buildings, the RIBA is certainly counselling clients to consider topics such as the circular economy and how buildings can work more effectively at their end of life, either by being dismantled rather than demolished or repurposed for a new use.
No, that's great. Okay, I think we're going to be stretching slightly over the 45 minutes that I said at the start, but I think it's been worth it. So I'd just like to thank you very much for your time, Dale, and a great presentation with fantastic insight there. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Stephen. No, you're welcome.
So I think the main signpost at the end of this is where can you download the plan of work from and the guidance. If you search for RIBA Plan of Work in Google, like right at the top of the hits, you're going to see where you can get the PDF from, or you can go to the page on architecture.com. And on architecture.com, you can just drop down the page to the downloads, and you get a PDF of the plan. You've got the overview document, and there's also a little Excel spreadsheet where it's got an example design responsibility matrix and lay out your tasks and things like that as well. So to find out more about what Dale talked about today, just drop onto architecture.com. If you want to know more about MBS, MBS integrated global platform for design, supply, and construction built environment, where you can document your specification decisions, document your requirements in the spec. MBS Chorus, and if you're a building product manufacturer, you can position your products. All of our webinars you can get to from the events button on the mbs.com. So you might obviously you've signed up for this one, but future webinars will be advertised here, and you can register from the events page. And if you're interested in any of our previous webinars, all of them are available on demand. So if you want to know about the golden thread, or using Chorus as a collaborative tool, construction product information, all of those webinars are here as well. And then finally, just to advertise the webinars that are coming up. So what we're going to do is keep on going along the themes of the RIBA Plan of Work, but look at some of the key project strategies. So sustainability is the first one, Tuesday, 28th of April. And each of these presentations is going to have a presentation from one of the leaders that's connected with RIBA in developing this content, and also a short presentation from one of our MBS technical authors who will look at how you can document these requirements in a project specification. So the first external speaker will be Gary Clark, who'll look at how to use the RIBA Plan of Work as a guide to the delivery of sustainable buildings. He's the chair of the RIBA Sustainable Futures Group, and also the lead author of the RIBA Sustainable Outcome Guide. Gary Clark, principal from HOK. Tuesday, 5th of May, we're going to look at fire safety. And what we're going to do for subject of fire safety is we've got a fantastic presentation from Dame Judith Hackett as part of a recent event we did, Construction Product Leadership Summit. So we're going to play back that presentation from that event, and again also hear from an MBS speaker. But definitely worth listening to Dame Judith Hackett, who really is an authority on the subject. 12th of May, information exchange is a huge subject, but what we're going to do is look at information exchanges from the point of developing specification content. We may do a subsequent information exchange, one more looking at the wider topic of building information modelling, but focusing on specification first. And the external speaker is Patrick Krocock, who's a specification lead at AHMM. He's had loads of previous experience as well with the likes of Foster and Partners, and he worked as part of the AECOM specification consulting team. And he'll look at producing outline specs at concept design stage, moving through prescriptive, descriptive specifications, as we talked about briefly today. And then the fourth webinar that we've got booked in is on the strategic topic of health and safety. And the external speaker we have there is Sarah Sussman from Scott Brownrigg, Head of Technical Development. And Sarah's responsible for leading the delivery of health and safety CDM across Scott Brownrigg Architects to ensure legal and best practice compliance. And she's a member of the RIBA's expert panel for health and safety and an associate of the Association for Project Safety. So thanks everybody for being part of the webinar today. Next steps, if you'd like to know more about any of the MBS solutions that we sort of briefly hinted at there, please get in touch with us. Just pop something in the chat forum and we'll get back to you. Remember architecture.com for the RIBA Plan of Work, thembs.com for more of our webinars and supporting information. Drop any questions you've got into the list. There's our email address. There's our telephone number. And yeah, thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.